Hi there, this is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, and welcome to our double take. I think maybe about a year ago I did a Francesco Rossi, Gian Maria Volonte double take. So today I'm going to do Damiano Damiani, which is quite hard to say, and Gian Maria Volonte double take. So we're going to look at Damiani's 1966 film, The Witch, and the 1977 Damiani film, Io Paura, or I Am Afraid. Now obviously Damiani is on everybody's lips at the moment. Also did A Bullet for the General with Volonte, but recently Radiance released this wonderful box set, Cosa Nostra, 3 films of Damiani starring Franco Nero. I think Man vs. Film did a video on this today. It's a fabulous box set. I can't really remember how many box sets have been out so far this year, but this is my box set of the year. Probably in a close competition with Indicator's Mexican Macabre set. It's probably a tie, in actual fact, now that I think about it. And I may have developed a Damiani problem. Obviously, people are kind of new to the channel. I've only seen a couple of Fellinis, and I wasn't blown away by them. I know that's sacrilege. I've seen slightly more Antonioni, but not that much, and I haven't been blown away by them. I know it's sacrilege. I've only seen a few Rossellinis, and they were very, very good. De Sica, Visconti. I haven't quite devoured their kind of back catalogues, but I absolutely adore Elio Petri, even although we need to get more proper Blu-ray releases of Elio Petri stuff. So if anybody from Radiance, if Mr. Simeone's watching, can we have a Elio Petri box set? Obviously they released Working Class Go to Heaven or Lulu the Tool with Volonte. Could we have a Volonte box set, a Francesco Rossi box set, a Mario Monicelli, a Petri Angeli? Not much. I mean, but Francesco Rossi, Petri, the few Monicellis, that's where my bag is. I mean, again, there's just so many Italian directors, the same way there's so many French directors, but Italy has kind of been neglected a little bit, so it's really good to see Radiance shedding some light. Obviously there's an Italian comedy set coming, including Il Sorpasso. So Damiani's kind of in the YouTube, or a corner of the Blue Tube community. And all the films I've seen are very good to excellent, and both of these are excellent. They floated my very small boat, but again, my opinion is not fact. So let's talk about The Witch, from 1966, or La Strega di Amor. This stars Richard Johnson. So in 1966, this is a young Volonte. He had done both the dollar films that he was in by this time, but obviously they hadn't really hit the West and exploded. So here he is really a co-star. He's not the main star, Richard Johnson is, who's always kind of a bit stiff, but he's kind of more famous obviously for being in The Haunting. And The Witch comes from Arrow's Gothic Fantastic, or Fantastico, 4 Italian Tales of Terror. Now this is just the cheap version, so it's just the thin cardboard and the 4 films, not with the book. So we've got The Third Eye with Franco Nero, which I haven't watched yet. We have The Blancheville Monster, which I haven't watched yet, which is based on a Poe. And Lady Morgan's Vengeance, which again I haven't watched yet. So looking forward to all of them. But because it was Damiani and then I realised Volonte was in it, I kind of had to watch The Witch first, and I'm glad I did. Now this has just ravishing black and white cinematography. It is, strange enough, called The Witch, but it's Damiani's take on that. So there's not your stereotypical supernatural goings on. There's shades of it, but this is more a psychological gothic. Lots of cobwebs. Again, ravishing black and white cinematography. It's the story of Richard Johnson, who of course is speaking English and being dubbed later. I mean, again, with those Arrow box sets, they do give you the option of watching the dubbed version, which obviously I wouldn't recommend. And he is a ladies' man, and he sees this advert, which he feels describes himself. There's a woman following him about. He's a little bit perturbed by. So he turns up at this big house, and it's the same woman that's been following him. And he looks at the ad and he says, this is exactly, it sounds like me. It's almost like tailored for me. And she wants him to renovate her library, sorry. Currently she has a librarian or a renovator, but he's not doing a very good job. Her books are of an erotic nature that her dead husband, wrote. So again, if you're interested in erotica, then you should come and translate my husband's diaries and do up my library. Richard Johnson, being the ladies' man, originally thinks that she wants him in a sexual capacity, which she laughs off. And he's about to leave when her daughter Aura turns up. The film was based on a novella called Aura. And because he's a ladies' man and a bit of a predator, really, I suppose in those days it was called charming, he is somewhat besotted by her, and is intrigued to maybe keep the job or take up the job, to get a chance to get to know her better, probably in the biblical sense. But then Gian Maria Volonte turns up, looking very brooding and intense, strangely enough, looking like a man who's haunted. And the relationship between Volonte and Johnson is very aggressive, then passive, and aggressive, and help me or get out of here. And as the film progresses, we find out the dynamic between the three characters in the house, the mother, the daughter, and Volonte. And Richard Johnson is caught up in this. It's one of those films that's very contained within the house, with the exception of a couple little visits to the outside world. There's a very threatening greenhouse full of dead or tortured cats. There is a wee bit of cat abuse in this film, it has to be said. But Damiani's use of music, it's not a typical score for a film about quote-unquote a witch. It has a lot of jazz, some kind of avant-garde stuff. There's wonderful camera work. As I said, Damiani is his camera is either moving in a circular fashion or the character is always moving. He has very rarely kind of shots of a still camera and still characters. Something's usually moving within the shot. Um, Again, Richard Johnson, who I generally find is a bit stiff, he does play the part quite well as a kind of arrogant ladies' man whose foundations are getting a bit shaken. Um, and Volonte is fantastic, even at this early stage in his career. He can kind of turn on and off that intensity, and that he can do the broken man thing very well as the kind of cocksure, intense character. There's wonderful fencing scene between Volonte and Aura. There's really good scenes near the end with interesting camera work. It's just a really atmospheric, slightly odd film. Again, it's about aging and trying to stop the aging process. Again, it has that idea of the witch being an older character trying to regain her youth. There's really good extras. There's a commentary by Kat Ellinger. There's an introduction by Italian film devotee Mark Thompson Ashworth, and there's a really good video essay on the film by Miranda Corcoran, who goes through the history of witches, not just in history and literature, but a little bit through film history as well. And there's also a video interview with the author and filmmaker Antonio Tentore. So it's got some really good extras on it as well. I would highly recommend it, but it's not like full-blown supernatural. It's more that kind of creepy vibe. It's a little bit like Rosemary's Baby in that sense, not thematically or anything, but it's just that kind of creepy, claustrophobic. It's got great sets. I'm assuming certainly the bit in the library with the spiral staircases, I assume, was actually in a building in Rome. So you really do get a sense of age. There's actually also something quite interesting in a glass casket. It's just a really wonderful film, but again, if you're looking for a traditional film about witches, this is kind of Damiani's slant on it. You know, if you're used to things like this and Bullet for the General, kind of more political stuff, kind of him doing the witch might seem a little bit odd, but then when you watch it, you know, it's not your typical witch, so to speak. And then we go to Io Porra, or I Am Afraid, which not only stars Gian Maria Volonte, this time he's above the title as opposed to being after the title with the witch. It also stars Erland Josephson, or Josephson even, from obviously Bergman films, and Mario Adorf, just for good measure. I mean, three legends in the game. And it has a similar vibe to Rossi's Illustrious Corpses, which to me is a masterpiece, but obviously my opinion is not fact, which had Lino Ventura with Max von Sydow. So this is the pairing of Volonte and Josephson. I mean, I didn't think I wanted that in my life, but bloody hell I do now. It's fantastic. This is a DVR, so very much like Rossi's The Matai Case, which I got on a fairly strange DVD. This also has, it feels like not all the subtitles are there, and again, if Mr. Simeone's watching, we could do with a Radiance release of this as well, because this is an excellent film. Again, co-written by Damiani, with Volonte, Josephson and Adorf. Amazing stuff. So the story of this one, we're in the years of lead because it's 77, so everybody's unhappy. I mean, if anybody's watching who actually lived in Italy in the 70s, it must have been a fairly grim time to live in Rome or Naples or whenever, Turin. So Volonte stars as a police brigadier. It opens with a wonderfully tense killing of a judge and his bodyguard, and the police have kind of had enough and kind of want to go on their own riot almost. There's a wonderful scene in the police canteen where all the policemen are just shouting and yelling, and Volonte's sitting at a table peeling an apple in typical Volonte fashion. And he eventually joins the throng and asks some questions. So it's this atmosphere of everybody's annoyed, strange enough, the police are annoyed at getting shot and blown up. So Volonte gets the job of being a bodyguard to Erland Josephson, who is a judge, but kind of an older, daughtery one, who's kind of on the fringes of the justice system, and he's investigating a killing at a warehouse, and Volonte spots a little detail that helps bring somebody to justice, or does it? And slowly, initially, Josephson doesn't want a bodyguard because he says, well, if I have a bodyguard, that means people are going to shoot at me, and that almost encourages them. And when we get to that stage, we might as well pack it in if judges can't walk free, even though the years have led judges were blown up on a regular basis. But slowly, he kind of gains the trust. He trusts Volonte a little bit more. Volonte's character is absolutely fantastic because he's not just the hero and that's it. A lot of the time his character doesn't want to get involved. He's got a daughter, doesn't stay with him, but he's got a daughter. He's got a kind of on and off girlfriend. But half the film he doesn't want to get involved. Other periods of the film he has to get involved. But it's not just this, oh, I'm the hero, I'll do whatever's necessary to bring people to justice. He is much more of a complex character. He has lots of grey areas, things that you think he'll do, he doesn't, and vice versa. So it's not just a straightforward, oh, I'm the hero role. I mean, obviously, Volonte was an extremely political guy in real life, and he chose films very carefully, generally for some kind of socio-political commentary. He didn't do a lot of kind of fluff films, if you like. I do need to see more Volonte because he is just absolutely fantastic. So in this one, he's still playing a guy you root for, but again, you put yourself in his situation, and there are times that you just go, I don't want to get involved, because it may obviously cause trouble for myself, and again, it's very difficult where you can see corruption and bad things happening around you and just feeling it's just a wave that you're never going to stop. Obviously there's been some American films post-70s, obviously the paranoia thrillers in America in the 70s are generally all excellent, but there has been some films later on in the 90s or whatever where it seems like one person can stop a whole conspiracy, which is generally a load of nonsense. But the Italians did a lot of wonderful paranoia thrillers in the 70s, as did the French. It's almost as if paranoia was in the air in the 70s or something. So Josephson and Volonte slowly uncover things, and the film takes off from there, and I'm not going to get into anything else. But it's just absolutely fantastic. Again, we probably need a better release, and if you know of a better release, please tell me. I haven't looked in Amazon France whether there's actually a better edition, or Amazon Italy for that matter, because it does feel like some of the subtitles aren't actually there when they're speaking, especially there's a scene near the end where somebody's speaking to somebody and you feel like there should be subtitles there, but apart from that the print's not bad, but obviously a Blu-ray would be better. Volonte again is just brilliant because at times that he is obviously more confident in himself, especially at the start of the film, and then there's moments where he does that haunted broken man thing very well, and again those burning eyes, that intensity. Josephson is brilliant, and Adolf, who's been in 3 million films, is always absolutely fantastic no matter what he's playing. I won't tell you what he's playing in this. It's just absolutely wonderful. It's about 2 hours or just under 2 hours, and absolutely flies by. Both films do. Personally speaking, I was hooked in both of them for kind of different reasons. The Witch, just that black and white cinematography, and Rosanna Schiaffino, who plays Aura, is very hypnotic as well. The whole film is kind of has this hypnotic pull, and Io Pora is just wonderful, and you're hooked into the story and finding out exactly what the heck is going on. It's got surprises. So both films are absolutely wonderful. So after the Damiani Cosa Nostra set with Franco Nero, Damiani is certainly my latest director discovery, unfortunately for me. So I'm probably going to go digging for some more Damiani. Again, very much like Petri and Monicelli and Petrangeli and Rossi, not all of their films are available easily or on decent copies. But as I said, hopefully Radiance are kind of opening the door to a little bit more of Italian releases. But there's just so many good films and so many good directors out there. So thanks very much for watching this double take of Damiani and Volonte. 2 different Volontes, an earlier Volonte where he's not the headline star, and full-blown Volonte when he is definitely the star of the film. So thanks very much for watching. Please let me know if you've seen these films and what you think of them, and hopefully you'll join me again for more episodes of Double Take. This is Solitude Ronin from Solitude Ronin Films saying farewell.